part of my core thesis around particularly leadership, and I think it's true for every function today, is you've got to stay a student. I'm fond of the refrain, leaders are learners, but I think we're in a critical moment in time where things are changing so fast that it's incumbent upon all of us to really, it's the idea of a foot in two worlds, right? It's like you're executing and performing, you're running your business, I'm running my business, but at the same time, we also need to continue to expand and grow and adapt and invest ahead of the curve. And a big part of that is learning. We're also busy, stressed, overwhelmed, self-included, that we're not carving out the appropriate and adequate amount of time, one, to learn and grow, and two, to prepare for what's next and new. Things are changing so fast, but they're never going to be this slow again. And so learning agility is a new critical skill and competency to be a high performer. The high performers don't stop learning. They stay students, and it's iterative. So you've got to stay in the learning lane. Artificial intelligence and generative AI, it's changing so fast, and I can't even keep up with the news cycle, let alone my own skill and competency and how it's being leveraged in my business. And I just realized, I actually have to stop and get somebody who's a lot smarter than me about this to teach me. And so we have somebody in our community that worked for Google. He's like an AI aficionado. He was an executive at Google, and he talks about this and writes books about it. And I'm going to have him come to Minneapolis for 2 days and give me a two-day workshop. And the age-old entrepreneurial idea of you're working in the business all the time. You've got to work on the business. That's not just true for business owners. That's true for everybody. If I'm a sales leader, so a couple of things I'm doing. One, I think you have to create time and space for knowledge transfer in a sales organization. And even you think in a distributed sales organization, there's so much institutional knowledge that happens in the field each and every day, but you have to create the time and the space to come together and transfer that knowledge and share those ideas. So I think that's one critical thing. The second thing as a sales leader I'm doing is I've got to be coaching. I've got to be with my team in the field, in the work, providing real-time direct feedback. And that's role-playing, and it's analysis, and it's auditing, and it's co-creating on a call, and it's feedback. And so that's got to, that needs to be happening on the spot, real time. And then I think you have to look at the individual contributor. And that gets into the development plan. But if you had a specific development plan for each member of your team, if you assessed their skill, their capability, and what their biggest opportunity was to create the next breakthrough in their career, in their year, you would actually customize some of that development accordingly. Everybody's at a different place and everybody has different needs. And so I think thinking about it through that lens and then mapping the learning journey to what somebody both needs and wants. If you may have a producer that wants to go into management and wants to understand that. We'll start developing that competency. Leaders build other leaders, give people some line of sight and some additional responsibility. You may have someone that's very clear they never want to do that at all, but they have an opportunity to develop their capability another way. So it can't be a blanket approach. I think learning increasingly needs to be customized. And, I was just reminded of this in the meeting that I went on. Great company, API, I was meeting with here in Minneapolis, just so focused. This is one of the most robust leadership development agendas and approaches that I've ever seen. They sort of unpacked it for me today. And one of their axioms was that, your development is your responsibility. So take agency over your own development. We have a lot of opportunity here. We have a lot of resources. We have a lot of pathways into expanding learning and your knowledge and skill, but you got to own that and you got to take responsibility for your own professional development. And obviously that's true in a small business, but even in a large organization. So I think as a leader, those are some of the things that I would want to continually reinforce how to approach it. The whole idea that success breeds complacency, or you arrive at a certain destination in your career and you can kind of stay there, right? And that just isn't the case anymore. I get that you've been a great financial advisor for 25 years and you built a great book of business, but you have to keep developing your competency. Your clients are changing. We're approaching the great transfer of wealth, and now you've got agentic AI who actually can mitigate risk in a portfolio 10 times faster than you ever could in 30 seconds, and it's actually more accurate. And so, like, the idea that you're not going to continue to develop that and sharpen those skills and competency and understand how things are changing, I think it's not just a missed opportunity anymore. It's a recipe for being disrupted, and that's true. That's true for an individual, and it's true for a team or an enterprise. So embedding learning and development and learning agility in a business, crucial.